Data.
3, 2, 1, go.
Oh, we are
What a
live.
fun
That
intro.
was a cool. Yeah, that was a fun. That had me like dancing in my chair and stuff.
I know. I was pumped.
Yeah,
I'm feeling
that was very energetic. I will try and match that energy. So, what is your favorite writing, drink, and/or snack?
Well, my first question is, who the heck are you?
Oh shoot! Yes, we have to talk about that stuff. See, this is why I don't lead panels when I do conventions. It's because I forget about the intros. My name is Nick Savage, and I am the author of the West Haven Undead series. This is book 1 in the series called Us of Legendary Gods. I don't know if my camera is mirrored or not, so if you can't see that, read backwards. It's a fantasy series, kind of takes a new look at vampires and werewolves through the lens of autoimmune disease and science instead of supernatural. That's who I am. Who are you, PC?
I am PC Nottingham. I'm a sci-fi author. If you got like adult space opera, I've got the Earthquake War series. All 3 books are out. Book 1 is Mummified Moon, which is like Indiana Jones in space, where Indiana Jones accidentally wakes up Cockroach Cthulhu. And I've also got a middle grade series called The Ghosts and Iron Trilogy. Book 1 is The Ghost in the Trees. If you were a fan of Redwall as a youngster, or Usagi Yojimbo, those comics of the Samurai Bunny, this is the next evolution of that. So if you were an 80s or 90s kid who loved Redwall and you wish there was something more modern for your kids to read, this is the thing. Or if you just need a fun, clean adventure with some Ninja Squirrel action, it's right up there for you.
Ninja Squirrels.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that sounds fun. Yeah.
A squirrel broke into my basement a couple years ago and really outsmarted and outfoxed and out everything to me and my dog. And it was the inspiration because it was just darting around the walls of my basement bathroom, just like a very agile ninja. So,
and now you have a book series.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you got the squirrel art and he's not like a pet now or anything.
That is correct.
Okay. Because I've known people who've had squirrels break in, they get injured somehow, so they nurse them back, and then the squirrel, just like a cat, they just stay. So it's yeah. But yours is gone, back in the wild, doing what it does. Yeah. So sorry about the faux pas on the opening. Thank you for reminding me about the intros. I don't have a fun story about like a vampire that broke into my house and inspired me to write. It was just kind of, a different kind of inspiration.
That's probably for the best, because the vampire would have snacked upon you.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been fun shenanigans. It would have been more life-threatening. So, yeah.
Which that brings us to the first question we've got to tackle of what's your favorite author snack?
See, I don't have simple answers. Like back in the day, when I was in my 20s, it was, I was drinking a bottle of wine or a bottle of Bailey's every time I wrote. My liver did not like me much. Now that I'm older and I don't buy into the writers have to be brooding, like misanthropes, I drink Coke or iced tea or coffee, like just something caffeinated. I think is really what it boils down to. Is it has to have that caffeine in it. And I don't snack as much as I used to. I still snack, but not nearly as much as I used to. So it's mainly just give me the caffeine and I'm good to go. What about you? Are you a caffeine guy?
So I wake up at the crack of dawn so I can walk my dog and get some exercise done and then do my writing before my kids wake up. So like you, I absolutely have to have something caffeinated in the morning when I'm writing. And then the rest of the time, if I am going to eat, it's probably going to be stress eating. So that will be whichever one of my kids' snacks I can pilfer. So if it's like kid granola bars or goldfish, I am probably smacking that. I try to be healthy with a little protein shake with my breakfast, but after that, it goes into the stress eating. Then I'm just stealing my kids' stuff.
See, now we try and be healthy with our snacks. Like I have learned to like I just finished off a big bag of cinnamon toast crunch, and I don't like it normal anymore. Like I have to put vanilla protein powder in it, otherwise it doesn't taste right to me. And we snack healthy like that, but we love goldfish crackers, but we don't buy them because we will buy them at like Costco or BJ's, and it's like the 3 pound box of goldfish.
It's like an aquarium.
Yeah, and we'll eat them in like 3 days.
Yeah.
And that's like a pound of goldfish a day. And that's just so we're just like done. We don't buy the goldfish often. And
Yeah, I can't help it with the kids. They go to they get stuff from school, they get stuff from birthday parties. It's just there. And because I'm a loving father, I don't want them to have all that sugar. But because I'm Irish, I'm not going to throw away free stuff either. So
no, yeah. You have to eat it somehow. You can't waste it. You don't want them to have it, so you have to help and eat it.
It's so I can teach them about financial responsibility, honestly, because I love them, and also to keep them healthy. So I just take on that sacrifice for them. It's really, I think, of every father's call.
No, I understand. I get it. Yeah. You have to take the hit and eat the junk food so they don't eat it all. Yeah. I'm sure the wife agrees 100%.
She's somewhat in the dark about it. It's okay. We
don't that works. I understand. What is it coffee, or do you like iced coffee? Like what kind of coffee do you drink?
So I'm more of a tea kind of guy. I'm trying to taper off the energy drinks, but I won't say where, but I did used to work at a fast food chain that sold a ton of coffee. And the stench of coffee now just sends me back into a very dark place. Stomach can't really handle it, not because of the strength of the coffee, just bad memories.
Smells will do that to you. I had to mute myself because when you're drinking tea and you inhale it, you just start coughing. I actually found, now in Ohio, I don't know any good tea shops, but down here in Tampa, it's far from me. It's like an hour drive to Tampa. There's a place called Tea Bella. I know in the Midwest there was a tea shop that was absolutely great. They had like 200 different loose leaf teas. But I am currently drinking in this glass is a whiskey pu'er. And pu'er in and of itself is a very heavy, earthy tea. If you get a strong pu'er that's unflavored, literally tastes like ruined dirt. And I love it. I love the way that tastes. But this has like whiskey undertones to it. It's not like alcoholic or anything, but it has like that flavoring. Absolutely phenomenal. Brewed a batch of that. So if you're looking for good, strong teas, pu'ers are definitely worth the try.
Interesting. We'll have to you'll have to tell me the spelling, because that sounds French and I'm not smart enough for that.
I'm going to put that in the comments. Oh, never mind. I have to connect to YouTube in order to try. I'm going to put it in here, and if Chelsea's still with us, she can put it in the comments. Whiskey.
Yeah.
So something like this.
The second question that we got tossed is, what would you do if you had a time machine? Now, this is one where I feel like I got to have different tiers of answers. Like, do I have to use this responsibly, or can I use it irresponsibly?
No. You can use it however you want. The question didn't say,
because that's my thing. Like, if I have to be like, I mean, you gotta kill Hitler, or at least like convince the dude to stay in art school, like.
But see, if we're going to go on that route, and we can dive down real dark rabbit holes with this, the issue with him, and I'm not defending him, the issue with him was that he got injured in World War I, his first time in battle, and then got injured his second time going into battle again, and then got dismissed. And that caused a lot of his depression. And then he ended up hooking up with a working girl, prostitute, and ended up getting syphilis, which ended up becoming tertiary stage, which caused his megalomania, which caused him to do what he did in order to lead to World War II.
So
So
you'd give them Zoloft and penicillin?
I'm just saying they're yeah, keep them in art school, maybe teach them better fighting techniques in World War One so he didn't get injured, or kill them. You know, there's many different routes we can go to 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 do to kind of try and prevent what had happened. But you know, a little bit of penicillin may have saved a lot of lives.
Or like just get them hooked on bagels, introduce them to the beauty of Jewish culture. Like,
Yeah,
look, dude, like, aren't these awesome? Like, you wouldn't want these to go away, would you? Like, 999.
like when I ate meat, I got to be honest, like lox was phenomenal.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
understand there are people who are like, fish isn't meat, fish is meat, it's an animal.
Yeah.
But lox are a phenomenal dish, like bagels and lox with some cream cheese, absolutely phenomenal. So there are many ways, but I think in general you're onto something though. If you don't like something, learn about their culture. Don't just focus on the parts of the culture that cause you to feel the way that you do, because if you learn about something, you're going to find things that you like and embrace, and the hatred melts away. So, you know, start with bagels.
Yeah.
Everybody likes a good bagel. See, I think if I had a time machine, it would be one of two things. One, I believe in the time travel paradox, which means whatever you're using the time machine for can't happen, because
Fair.
then you wouldn't use the time machine. You wouldn't have had a reason to go back in the past and change it. But time travel paradox aside, I would either go back and smack my younger self in the head and say, listen to what people are telling you. They're not trying to tear you down, because I had a big problem with that, especially in my early days of writing, where people were trying to give me constructive criticism. And I was just like the big, like middle finger, like, oh, I know better. I know what I'm doing. I don't need help, you know, and I'm just like, don't be that guy. Or go back and do the Biff Tannen thing, where you get like the sports almanac and then go make all your bets and get some money.
Nice.
Yeah. So those are my, you know, what I would do, but I don't know if going back and smacking myself in the head would have given me the wake up call that I needed, because then I'd still probably just be giving my older self the middle finger,
Right.
and saying I don't need it. I don't know. Were you ever like that? Were you ever like in your early days of writing like that? I know better than anyone.
No. I if I could time machine for myself and fix my writer trajectory, I would get on social media way earlier. I waited so long, and before I hooked up with Four Horsemen, I was querying, and I got barely any bites, but I was leaving all the social media stuff they were asking for blank, because my naive thought was, well, this is something like my agent or my publisher, they'll figure out with me and they'll help me like make my brand, and that's when I'll start my platform. But really that didn't pan out at all, and it wasn't until I got on Twitter, before some billionaire mussed it up. There was a pitch contest, like pitch your book in a tweet, and
Yeah.
I tweeted a pitch for a Mummified Moon, and it wasn't all that different from what I said at the top of the show. And the acquisitions editor for Four Horsemen liked it, and then I messaged them, was like, hey, so I liked my post, you want to see it? And they asked for a chapter, they liked it, they asked for the whole thing, and then they asked me for a contract. So I definitely probably missed out on a lot of other author offers because I wasn't on social media at all. But then at the same time, like, I wouldn't have hooked up with Four Horsemen, so maybe worked out for the best. Because I'm kind of leery about like changing anything in my own life. Like, I definitely would. There's a part of me that would like to give my teenage self a list: stay away from these 5 girls. But if I hadn't made the mistakes I did, would I have ever met my wife the way I did? Would we have fallen in love the way we did? So I'd be hesitant about changing that kind of thing. But if I could fix anything in my writer career, I would definitely do that. I was never, but in terms of like getting feedback, I was very like, okay, I'm just kind of a fanboy writing my own little thing. I don't have a serious writing background other than just like the dumb little stories I would make up in high school and college. So I was very, very spongy of whatever feedback I could possibly get.
Yeah.
Because I found this editor who would do like a sample edit for free, and being Irish, obviously I'm going to take the free thing. And this person very professionally just eviscerated my stuff. And from those ashes, I was able to, like, I got onto looking at Brandon Sanderson. He has he taught a writing class and he had a YouTube recording of all of his lectures. And then I just gobbled those up. And then I found out about his Writing Excuses podcast, and I just gobbled that up. So yeah, I needed to get torn down a lot, and it was for the best.
I think every author needs to at some point. I've had my writing torn apart in the past and stuff like that. And it's funny because until you start to listen to why people are tearing you down and you get over your own ego and the fact that it's being torn down and it's not perfect, you're never going to get better, because you are starting with a glass that's already full and you have no, that whole like pouring water, into the glass analogy or metaphor or whatever. And until you can get rid of all those preconceived notions about yourself and how perfect you are, you're never going to get better. So every author needs to be torn down. Luckily, I have a buddy who's been with me for almost 20 years on my writing journey, and he's worked in Hollywood for a long time. And every time I write something and I have an idea that I run by him, he always asks why, about random things, and with the West Haven Undead series, he would always ask, well, why does this happen? Or, things that are left field or maybe out of the story, but might relate into the story at some point. And he wasn't asking me to be like, I got you, you don't know your own story. But at some point, someone might ask you these things. And if you can't answer them, then you lose your credibility. And I was just like, so every story I write, it's always, all right, what's going to be asked and what needs, how does A connect not only to Z, but all the way to quadruple Z as you go through the alphabet 80 times. And it helps create better worlds and stuff. And if you can't get rid of that and just, oh, this is what I wrote and it's perfect as is, you always stay at that first level. So I definitely think you're right on that sense. I don't know if that made sense.
Yeah, it does. And it's good you mentioned having a critique partner, because when you look at some of the greats like C.S. Lewis and Tolkien, they were in a writing group together. They gave each other feedback on their stuff. And one of the lessons I learned from getting eviscerated is I needed other authors or aspiring authors to look at my stuff, and we can swap feedback. And then getting over that worry, oh, maybe I don't know what I'm doing, you can still make it a little better and then stretch and flex that muscle.
Yes.
So I've got a group of authors then that we live in very different parts of the world, but we'll still swap feedback with each other. So it's really helpful knowing I didn't know this turn of phrase in English, American English, means something really, really offensive in Australian English, or that this fantasy word I thought I made up is actually a slur in the UK, and that creates kind of this echo chamber where you just ping pong off each other. And looking at we all kind of started and we just met being strangers online. We just found each other, and then now almost all of us have at least one book out. I'm the only traditionally published author in the group. The rest of them are all indie authors, but still having that feedback with each other has just been so useful, because it's hard to see your own mistakes, and it's hard to know how other people are going to react to whatever you write, because you know what you mean, but you need to perfect that telepathy to make sure a reader actually knows it.
Oh, 100%. Are you talking about Radio Free Write by chance?
You're a fan.
Okay.
You listener?
No, I just read a note from Chelsea. She's like, shout out if you're talking about Radio Free Write. I'm going to have to look into them. I everyone that I'm friends with, who or connected with, who gives, who knows my stuff, they're all film industry people. They are not publishing industry people. So it's a very different kind of mindset in the way that I receive any sort of feedback and stuff. It's a very unique perspective, I think, in terms of like where I come from and where I am. But no, she says something about Radio Free Write, so she's going to write the link for them in the show notes. I'm listening and reading. Yeah, but now I'm going to look into it.
So Radio Free Write is a podcast that I'm a regular on. And what we do is we take a shared prompt and we write original flash fiction piece. And then we read the first draft on air and we chat about storytelling. So we update like every 2-3 weeks on Fridays. You can check us out wherever you get your podcasts. Nick, we're always looking for new guests if you ever want to join us. But it's a good way to just really improve and flex. Chelsea's been a guest. I'm working on getting some other Four Horsemen authors on there as guests in the next season.
I would, definitely love to do that.
Yeah.
I love doing podcasts. I love just getting out and talking about the craft and stuff like that. So I definitely have no issues or hesitations coming on and doing another podcast.
Yeah, it's a blast, and a lot of the prompts ended up being ideas for stories from me. Like Severed Squadron, the second book in the Earthquake War series, was inspired by a prompt on Radio Free Write. The prompt was Calamity Jane, and I thought of like, what would Calamity Jane look like in my sci-fi universe? So I'm thinking of like this badass alien who is a Calamity Jane style vigilante. So she's a big old polar bear with a red mohawk, closeted lesbian, and she's got this big old gang of other women, and she just makes it her mission to just like find the galaxy's pedophiles and drug dealers and just kill them in really creative ways. So that started a whole novel. So doing those free write exercises have been really, really useful, and I've had other novels come out of prompts from there too.
No, as an author, it's hard to read as much as we want sometimes. How many books have you published?
So I've got 6 that are out as of last week. I've got another 6 in the hands of editors at Four Horsemen, and I'm working on. I just typed the end on the first draft of the next one. So
you're at like 13 so far.
Yeah.
Okay, you got me beat. I've got 5 in one series, 3 in another, 4, but I can't count. I didn't write the 4th. It was just a compilation. So 8, and then the graphic novel from my other publisher. So and then I'm working on my 10th right now, but I'm only 29.5K into my next book, and I'm trying to get it up to 70, 80K, but it's probably going to stay closer to the lower end of the word count for the genre, and see how much I get yelled at for that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I write, my books tend to be on the shorter word count for either within that magic number, of like fantasy 90 to 110. I'm like 90, 92, romance 60 to 70. I'm like 50, because that's the low end of the count. I'm like, that's just how I write. You know what I'm saying? I don't even want to say brevity is a friend of mine. It's how the stories go and stuff. So I'm just like quick.
You respect your reader's time.
Yeah. I also don't, when I write my romance, I'm not an erotica writer, so I don't write the 3-chapter sex scene that has nothing to do with the plot. Any kind of scene that I write is going to advance the plot in some way or another. So the sex scenes, if anything, are like 2-3 pages long, if that, because you get in, you do what you're going to do in those scenes and do what needs to be done to advance the plot, and then you get out. I don't need 3 chapters of euphemisms for genitalia. It's just, you know what I'm saying? It's not my cup of tea, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's what people like to read, what they like to write, just not my cup of tea. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get in, do my thing, and get out, which of course has double meaning, I guess, in that for what I'm talking about, but it is what it is. But no, you are fairly prolific in the writing.
Well, thank you.
Nice.
It helps that I had a couple of them already written by the time the Four Horsemen had found me. So I Mummified Moon and Severed Squadron were published first, but I had written the Ninja Squirrel series way before that. And that's what I had been querying. And I wrote Mummified Moon as like a palate cleanser because I was just getting so depressed from all of the silence and rejections. And then I was on the other Four Horsemen sponsored podcast, Drinking with Authors, and I was on with Erica Lance, who's an author and the CEO of the company. And while we were on a break and we had a couple, I mentioned to her, like, I wrote this whole other series, but it's very, very different from what I've got. And she's like, well, tell me about it. And I told her, she's like, that sounds awesome. And I was like, okay, she's drunk. And then
that was actually a very good Erica impression with you. That sounds awesome.
I hope she thinks so too. But yeah, and then the next morning I got an email from her like, pitch me the freaking book. And I was like, oh, sweet. She's sober. Yeah. She still wants it. Yeah, so I did have that little bit of head start. And the other thing I don't have anymore is my children used to nap. They don't nap now. I used to have a younger kid who would nap and an older kid who was an introvert and didn't need to be entertained. The younger kid needs entertainment. She can't handle just chilling in silence like the older one can. The older one would just sit and read and be very, very happy. So that's taken a bite out of things.
So I know we have one more question and approximately 3 minutes left before the approximate half hour. So writing kryptonite, what is there anything that absolutely kills your writing mojo that, when you're in the moment of writing? He's gone.
Okay. Sorry, I have some connectivity issues. So I think one of my big roadblocks is worry about word count. I want to make sure that I'm hitting the beats in the right spot, while also making sure my characters have room to breathe, but also thinking about the fact that there's going to be more books in the series and the subsequent books should be the same length or longer. So that's one piece. Then the other is just the time and fighting the distractions to actually like lock in, put out a bunch of words, and then be able to edit it when I'm in a better frame of mind. So time is my definite big fighter. And then also trying to stress eat my kids' food.
No, I understand with you on the word count thing. Like I use Scrivener, and if you've never used Scrivener, it has like a 30-day trial and it's only like $40. I love it. And it has a word count, for each section you're writing as well as the overall manuscript and stuff. So it's wonderful on that. But the word count gets me, and I generally don't worry about it until I'm done with the book and I go, oh, crap, I'm 10,000 words short, or I'm over where I wanted to be or whatever. Because you do have to think about your next book because you want it to be similar word count or more, but never too much less, so it's always an issue with that. But I get in my own head about certain things. Like if I have just other things on my plate at the moment, in any of the other things that I do, like with my t-shirts or whatever, and I'm like, oh, I got to paint these t-shirts for these guys or whatever. I can't write because I have this other things on my mind. And then it'll be like, all right, I'll get in the moment. Or even if I'm writing and I don't have anything else in my mind, I have my door behind me. And if I forget to close it, and I have a door hanger that says, disturbed or writer at work, do not, or writer already disturbed, come on in. And I'll try and remember to flip it so my wife knows if the door's closed and it's, says don't disturb, don't come in. And if I forget to do it and I'm like in the moment, and I'm like, all right, I got all these things going on, and then I forget to close it and she comes in, I feel almost like I'm going to like Jack Nicholson from The Shining on her, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I can't do that. It was my fault. It was my fault for not saying anything. but then I'll lose my train of thought and I'm done for the day and just done. And I'm just like, oh, that was so on me. So on me. So I had to like remember to do all those things so I don't lose because I can't do it. But it's definitely, you know, a mix of that and the word count and making sure it goes where it's at. But I plot. Are you a plotter or are you
Yes.
a pantser? Okay. I don't understand why people would ever just write from the seat of their pants. Plotting is so much better. But that's a personal preference, whatever. I don't judge. I do judge. I say that anytime I say I don't judge, I'm secretly judging. But I do, I plot, but then of course you might get to a point in, you know, you plotted this stuff out and you're like, wait a second. And then you find like a hole, like I thought this, like these two cards would connect. And then you find out you have to like insert another one in there and stuff like that. But I find you mentioned talking about beats. I find if the cards connect properly, even though you thought this was going to be a beat on like page 57, if it ends up being page 67 or 70, it's not going to be the end of the world on that, you know. But generally, you know, you have some wiggle room on the beats on where they're going to fall. But it's, I also don't write like mysteries like that, you know, where it's like, oh, the girlfriend's got to be the suspected killer, but you got to blow past her by page like 27, which of course, you know, I don't write that stuff. So that's, you know, not the same. But that's my take on it. And that's what gets me on my writing stuff. I don't know.
I've found that outlining is really useful to get me started, so I feel like I know where I'm going to go. I will periodically deviate from it and have to adjust as I go. The most useful piece of the outline, though, is feeling like I have a roadmap and wiggle room. Sometimes the issue is I give myself too much wiggle room, and then I need to like go back to the outline.
No, but the thing is like with the characters you create, like the outline you have might be a great outline in theory, but in practice, if you're staying true to the characters, sorry, I just felt like a big gust of wind, and I'm indoors. And I'm like, where did that come from? Might have been my computer fan. I don't know. I'm crazy. But if you stay true to your characters, the characters may not follow the outline as much as you intended, and you can't force your characters to follow the outline because then the readers will be like, that was out of character. So what I do is I have my outline and where I want the book to end, and then I'll make two other endings that aren't what I wanted originally because the characters might go to either there or there. So when you find you're getting off, I'm like, maybe this ending's going to work better. You know what I'm saying? And then it might come back around. I did it for the series, 3 different endings for the series. And then each book I do 3 different endings for as well.
Do you end up using those alternate endings?
If sometimes, like when I wrote the Fairlanes series, I had book 1 end, and no spoiler alerts. It's 3 different possible endings. The Fairlane series is like a guy runs into the woman he left behind to become famous. It's a lost love, reignited flame thing. So the end of a romance book, you either get the girl or you don't get the girl. But in my book, there were 2 girls. There was the girl he got involved with before realizing the love of his life came back in. So it was he either gets girl 1 or he gets girl 2, or he doesn't get either of the girl. Those are the 3 possible endings outside of the far left field. Like he realizes he's gay and wants a guy. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. But 3 realistic endings. He gets girl 1, he gets girl 2, or he doesn't get any girl. So those were the 3 endings I had in mind. I don't necessarily write the 3 endings, but I'm like, those are where the characters may lead. I was going to give it where he gets either girl A or B at the end of book 1. But he doesn't get girl A, whichever girl that may be. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't the ending I thought it was going to be. So yeah, in essence, I do use some of the endings I come up with that weren't the intended endings because it's where the story leads. And you have to be open for your characters going to those endings because then it also created book 2 and 3. So it worked out, I think, a little better following the characters over following the plot, if that makes sense.
It does.
But yeah, but I don't know. I think we've answered the questions. I think we have had a nice 35 minutes. You are a fun person to talk with. I definitely am glad that whoever, that I got a chance to be on this. And Chelsea was like, "Hey," and I was like, "Yes." So you are fun, and we're Midwest people.
We are.
Yeah, and Midwest. I want to get back there. I do want to get back to the Midwest, but the housing market right now is not allowing for me to move back to where I want to go.
Yeah, it's these are troubled times.
Yeah, interesting times, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Interesting times, if not troubled. But yeah, I it's hard. It's funny because like I stay away from politics on like TikTok and a couple of the social medias, and then you go to my Facebook page, and I have other authors who snooze me because they're like, "This is too much," and I'm like, "It's got to be." Like you have to say what's going on right now. If you're just brushing it off, I'm like, you're just being complacent. So I'm like, my Facebook page is like where I just go kind of overboard with it.
Yeah, I let that talking come through in my books, which by the way are the Earthquake War series and the Ghosts and Iron series. If you want to check those out by PC Nottingham. And Nick, where can we find your books?
You can find my books anywhere books are sold. fourhorsemanpublications.com. You can find them at www.theauthornicksavage.com. I have the West Haven Undead, which is your young adult, older end of the young adult, contemporary urban fantasy, suburban fantasy, right? Series. It takes place in the suburbs, so I don't want to say urban. And then I also have the Fairlane series, which is your modern romance, kind of a post-rock star romance, and that is definitely not young adult. That is definitely 18 and over. Also, anywhere books are sold or at the author Nick Savage. And if you want my one book from my other publisher, you can find that on my website or at Blind Cyclops Books out of Chicago. And that is where you can find me.
Awesome.
Both.
Well, thanks for chatting. It was good meeting you and talking to you. And thanks to Chelsea Burton Dunn, the author who is behind the scenes making all this work. And thanks for everyone out there in internet land who hung out with us.
Yes, it's a pleasure. Thank you. And I hope we get to meet in real life IRL.
Definitely.
Thank you.
3, 2, 1, go.